and cooling for 24/7 comfort on call.
Well, hello, Brad. How are you today?
Quite well, thank you. Before we get to the main story, I have a few quick space updates for you. First of all, I wanted to mention this. It happened yesterday. Amazon launched their first internet satellites to compete with the SpaceX Starlink program. We talked about Amazon entering this field. It was about a year.
The billionaires are fighting.
They are, and in space.
In space, right.
Okay, so yesterday they launched and deployed their first 27 satellites. There's going to be 80 more launches over the next year and a half or thereabouts. Eventually they'll have 3,200 satellites in place, far fewer than Starlink, but enough to cover a good portion of the United States. They'll orbit at an altitude of 390 miles above the Earth. It's called Project Kuiper, and they are going to start accepting customers later this year.
Does this mean more phone calls about strange sights in the skies?
Maybe, though they are using some special coding, they say, so they'll be less visible in the night sky. But if you want satellite internet, you're going to have another option here later this year. Okay, I saw this picture. This is great. This is actually taken from a high-res camera aboard Mars reconnaissance orbiter. It's in orbit around Mars. And notice down at the bottom of the screen, that little tiny black speck.
Is that our friend?
Curiosity rover. Okay, I can kind of blow it up a little bit, but it's still just a little grainy dot, but nonetheless. And then the other interesting feature, you can see the trail it left behind there, spanning about 1,000 feet. These trails are only going to be visible for a few months, NASA says, because of the Martian winds will blow them away. All right, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
The main story for today, this is interesting. Massive study links 15 factors to early onset dementia. This is generally people under the age of 65, okay? And it was a large study. Out of the UK, they looked at 356,000 people. From that group of 356,000 people, they identified 485 people with early onset dementia. And they say while genetics definitely play a role, they were able to identify these 15 different lifestyle and health factors that were associated with that increased risk. So here are some of the risk factors that they identified. Low socioeconomic status, social isolation, hearing impairment, stroke, diabetes, heart disease, depression. We've heard of these before, but this is one more mounting body of evidence that indeed there's some sort of a link or role here. They also found a vitamin D deficiency, something called C-reactive protein, high levels of C-reactive protein, which your liver creates when it's under stress or a lot of inflammation. Okay, carries through the rest of the body. Chronic stress, no surprise there, and loneliness. So these were identified risk factors, but they also looked at it from another point of view, okay? What was associated with a lower risk, okay? Now this is where it gets interesting. Higher levels of formal education, especially when you have lifelong learning, continuing education as you get older. Again, using the brain, right? Okay, lower physical frailty. In other words, you are physically fit. So again,
you're more active.
Keep the brain and the body active. But this was the shocker out of the study. Okay, and I don't want you to react in a weird way.
Are you talking to me or to them?
Everybody. Okay, here you go. Look at this one. While alcohol abuse, this would be chronic alcoholism, led to an increased risk, moderate to heavy drinking correlated with a reduced risk of early onset dementia. Now again, the studies also say this does not mean you should go start tipping back a few more than you normally would, but it's an interesting finding. It's an interesting
more study.
Yeah, obviously.
All right, Brad, thanks so much. We'll see you again tomorrow.